Hey everyone, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Honestly never thought I'd be that guy writing one of these my spouse's cheating posts. But here I am, hands shaking over the keyboard. My wife, and I have been married for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, or at least I thought so. Lately though, things have felt off. Little stuff at first. She started rolling her eyes at almost everything I said, sighing dramatically like I was interrupting her life by existing. I chalked it up to stress at work. She can get a bit sharp when she's overwhelmed, and I've always tried to give her room to cool off. But then came the later nights at the office, the sudden obsession with her phone, and her weird, clipped responses whenever I'd ask what was going on. You know that gut feeling you try to ignore, because the alternative feels too painful to even imagine. Yeah, that feeling started becoming my roommate. At the time, I kept telling myself I was imagining things. Turns out, I wasn't. The real turning point, the moment I stopped being able to gaslight myself, happened about 3 weeks ago. Suddenly became overly protective of her phone, like Olympic-level defensive. She'd take it with her everywhere. Bathroom, garage, even when she was just grabbing laundry from the dryer. And if it buzzed, she'd snatch it up like it was a live grenade only she could defuse. One night we were watching a show together. I was watching. She was scrolling and her screen lit up with a notification. Just the preview banner. I didn't even lean in to look, it was just there. A message from someone named A. No last name, no emoji, just the initial. When she noticed me glance over, literally a reflex, she snapped her phone to her chest, like I'd tried to grab it. What? Why are you staring at me? She said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I told her I wasn't, that I'd just seen the screen light up. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd detach. God, you're so paranoid lately, she muttered, then got up and left the room. Paranoid, right? That word stuck with me for days. I kept trying to believe her, but the distance between us felt like it was growing by the hour. And the worst part, she didn't seem to care at all. Not about my feelings. Not about the weird tension. Not about us. Deep down, something started telling me, there's more going on here than she wants you to know. Turns out, the actual discovery didn't happen the way I always imagined it might. No lipstick on collars. Or mysterious receipts. It happened because of our dog. Yep. Our golden retriever, Daisy, is the reason everything unraveled. One Saturday morning, Em said she was heading out to run errands. She left in a rush, barely saying goodbye, acting annoyed that I even asked where she was going. Whatever. I decided to take Daisy out for a long walk, try to clear my head. Halfway through the walk, Daisy suddenly started limping. I freaked out, scooped her up. She's 70 pounds, mind you, carried her home, and texted Em to let her know something might be wrong. No response. I figured maybe she was driving. When I got home, I realized I left my own phone charger in her car earlier that week. Her iPad was on the kitchen counter, and I needed to message my brother for help with Daisy. She and I share an Apple account, never mattered before. We trusted each other, so messages sync between devices. The moment I opened a message on her iPad, I saw a thread pinned at the top with the name less than 3. My heart dropped so hard I swear I felt it hit the floor. I didn't mean to read anything, but my eyes latched onto the most recent text before I could look away. Last night was wild. I must have stared at that message thread for a full minute without blinking. Daisy was sitting beside me, whining softly, like she knew something was wrong, not with her leg, but with me. I finally closed the iPad, set it down, and just sat there on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets. My whole body felt wrong, like my skin didn't fit, like I was watching myself from a distance. I kept replaying the texts in my head, hoping I'd misread something. But no, the words were burned in. And then, because of course the universe has a sense of timing, her iPad buzzed again. Another message from a less than 3. Same time next week. I booked a room already. My stomach turned. A room? So this wasn't some emotional fling or texting fantasy. This was real, physical, planned, organized cheating. The kind where they order food afterward and laugh about inside jokes they've made while breaking your marriage. And like an idiot, my first thought was, is this why she's been so cold? Did I do something wrong? That self-blame hit fast and hard, like it always does when betrayal blindsides you. I started questioning everything. Was I not affectionate enough? Did I miss some sign sign months ago. Did she try to tell me she was unhappy and I just didn't listen? Then the real gut punch. What else did she lie about? How long had this been going on? Who knew? I felt my face get hot, my ears ringing, my hands shaking. It was like every emotion I'd been ignoring exploded at once. That's when I realized I needed to confront her. Not tomorrow, not next week, that day. Even if I didn't know what I wanted to say, even if I wasn't ready for whatever lie Shed tried to feed me, I just knew I couldn't keep this inside and pretend everything was normal 1 second longer. And got home about an hour later, walking through the door like she owned the place. Sunglasses still on, shopping bag in hand. She didn't even notice the look on my face. At first too busy complaining that the store didn't have her brand and that everything in this town is incompetent. Classic. I didn't say anything right away. I was standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking my whole chest. She finally looked up at me and froze. What? She snapped like I was the problem for existing in the kitchen she walked into. I swallowed hard. We need to talk. Her eyes narrowed. About what? I gestured toward the counter. Your iPad. Her whole posture changed. Not guilt, not fear, just irritated. Like I'd spilled juice on the floor and she was the one who had to clean it up. What about it? She said. You got a message, I said quietly, from someone named a heart. For half a second, just half a second, her face cracked, the tiniest flash of panic. But then she smoothed it over with a scoff and rolled her eyes. Oh my God, she said, tossing her bag onto a chair. You read my messages. Seriously? That's pathetic. That's what she chose to focus on. Not the affair, not the lies, not the fact she'd been sneaking out to cheat on me. No, she went straight to attacking me. I didn't go looking, I said. I saw the preview. Then the messages popped up. So you snooped? She snapped. Wow. I can't believe you'd invade my privacy like that. Do you know how toxic that is? I felt something inside me break a little. I said, my voice shaking now. Are you seriously trying to make me the villain? You're cheating on me. She crossed her arms, leaned her hip against the counter, and gave me that bored, dismissive look she uses when she thinks she's winning an argument. You're being dramatic, she said. It's not what you think. But I'd seen enough to know exactly what it was. And this was only the beginning of the lies she was about to throw at me. If I had to describe the next 5 minutes in one word, it would be gaslighting. The second I confronted her directly, it was like she switched into some pre-programmed deny everything mode. I saw the texts, I said. I saw what you just said. I saw the pictures. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and let out this exasperated laugh, like I'd just accused her of stealing cookies from a jar. Oh my God, you are so insecure, she said. Is just a friend. We joke around. That's all. Friends don't book hotel rooms, I said. That one landed. Her jaw tightened just a little, but she didn't break. She just pivoted. That wasn't for us, she said quickly. Has going through stuff with his girlfriend. I was helping him plan something. You know how dramatic people can be in texts. The lies were flying out faster than I could even mentally process them. It was like watching someone shovel dirt over their own feet while insisting there's no hole. I said, he literally said last night was wild. And you said you wanted to sneak out again. She waved her hand like she was brushing away a fly. He jokes like that with everyone. He calls all his female friends wild. It's just his personality. And I said sneak out because I needed space from you because lately you've been suffocating. Suffocating. Because I asked how her day was. Because I noticed she was leaving the house more often. Because I was trying to save a marriage I didn't know she'd already set on fire. She kept going. You're blowing this way out of proportion, she said. You're always assuming the worst. No wonder I don't tell you things. You twist everything. The kicker? She sounded annoying. Not scared. Not guilty. Just inconvenienced. And then she said the sentence that made my blood run cold. You're lucky I even came home today. I needed a break from all this paranoia. Lucky. I was lucky she came home from cheating on me. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't confused. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't even trying to save face. She just didn't care. And somehow that hurt worse than everything I'd just read on her iPad. I don't know what snapped first, my patience, my hope, or whatever fragile thread of trust was still holding the floor up beneath us. But something inside me finally gave way. Lucky? I repeated. Am lucky you came home? She shrugged, pulling off her sunglasses like she was settling in for a long, boring lecture. Yeah, I could have stayed out. Honestly, I probably should have. At least then I wouldn't be dealing with all this drama. Drama. That word again. Drama. Apparently, catching your spouse cheating is just another episode in the show of How Dare You Inconvenience Me. I tried to stay calm, God knows why, but my voice came out strained. You're talking to me like I'm the one who did something wrong. She sighed this long, loud, theatrical sigh and crossed her arms like she was the victim. Because you're attacking me over nothing. You always go nuclear when I need space. Maybe if you were more trusting, I wouldn't have to hide my conversations. That one hit like a slap. You had to hide them, I said. She froze, realizing she'd said too much. Then she backpedaled so fast it gave me verbal whiplash. That's not what I meant, she snapped. I meant you overreact. That's all. I stared at her, stunned. There she was, standing in our kitchen, lying so aggressively it was almost athletic. She wasn't even trying to be convincing anymore. It was like she'd decided that if she said the sky was green with enough attitude, I'd eventually cave and agree. And then because apparently she wasn't done, she threw out the line I will never forget. You know what? Maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have to text other people to feel heard. There it was. The classic cheater's blame shift. Turn their betrayal into your failure. I felt my hands curl into fists against the counter just to keep myself steady. You're cheating on me. You planned hotel rooms. You sent pictures. How is that my fault? For the first time, her mask slipped. Just a flicker annoyance mixed with something darker. A kind of how dare you call me out energy. I'm done with this conversation, she said, turning to walk away. But I wasn't done. Not even close. She tried to leave the kitchen like she could just exit the conversation. Like this was about what to order for dinner. Not the fact that she'd been sneaking around with someone who booked hotel rooms for them. Stop, I said, stepping in front of the doorway, not blocking her. Just standing there so she had to at least look at me. She groaned, as if I were delaying her from something more important than our marriage imploding. What now? She snapped. I took a breath. My voice was quieter this time, steadier. I need you to tell me the truth. She didn't meet my eyes. Instead, she looked past me like I was a smudge on a window she didn't feel like cleaning. I already told you. You're making this into something it isn't. I saw the messages, I said. I saw the pictures. I know what's been going on. She clenched her jaw, then gave a little shrug, casual, careless, like she was choosing not to deny it, just because she didn't feel like putting in the effort anymore. You're so dramatic, she muttered. Fine. Think whatever you want. I'm tired. Those words hit with a weird, dull thud. Think whatever you want. No defense, no denial, no apology. Just this lazy, disinterested indifference that almost hurt worse than the cheating itself, because it meant she didn't value the marriage enough to fight for it. So that's it? I asked. You're not even going to try to explain. She rolled her eyes. You've already made up your mind. Why bother? Anything I say, you'll twist. I swear something cold crawled up the back of my neck at that. It was like talking to a stranger. Not even a cruel one, just one who didn't care whether I existed or not. I need you to say it, I said. I need you to tell me if you've been seeing someone else. She stared at me for a long moment, then shrugged one more time, annoyed, dismissive, almost bored. Fine, she said. If it makes you shut up, sure. I've been hanging out with him. Are you happy now? I felt the air leave my lungs. But she wasn't done. And honestly, she continued, if you weren't so clingy lately, maybe things wouldn't have gotten to this point. There it was. The final twist of the knife. She walked around me, then didn't wait for me to respond, didn't offer anything. Didn't care that she had just detonated our entire life together. When she left the room, something inside me finally cracked. I didn't explode. I didn't yell. One didn't run after her. I just stood there in the suddenly too quiet kitchen, staring at the spot where she'd been standing, like my brain couldn't process that a human being could be that indifferent to blowing up an entire marriage. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I felt Daisy nudge my leg. It was stupid, but that tiny touch, soft nose against my calf, broke me harder than her confession did. I sank to the floor and just sat there with my back against the dishwasher, my dog's head in my lap. And let it hit me. All of it. The disbelief, the humiliation, the heartbreak. The sheer shock of realizing the person you loved, trusted, slept beside for years wasn't who you thought she was at all. I kept replaying the last few months, searching for some moment where I could say, this is when it started. But it didn't work. Every memory suddenly had question marks attached to it, shadows and places I'd never looked before. Was she already texting him that night she claimed she needed alone time? Was she lying when she said she'd been working late? Was she laughing at me behind my back? Did she ever feel guilty? Did she even care? The worst part, a small part of me kept whispering, what if you really weren't enough? I hated that voice, but it was loud and cruel. I don't cry easily. I wasn't raised that way. But right there on the kitchen floor, I felt the tears start before I could stop them. Hot and angry and helpless. Not because I lost her, I was starting to realize I never really had the version of her I believed in, but because she'd taken something from me without permission. My sense of reality, my confidence, my faith in what our marriage was supposed to be. But sitting there, I also felt something else beginning to form beneath the pain. Not strength, not clarity, not yet. Just a seed of realization. If someone can treat you like that and then blame you for their betrayal, maybe the problem was never you to begin with. After what felt like hours on the kitchen floor, I finally pulled myself together enough to stand. My legs felt shaky, like I'd run a marathon while being hit by a truck. I washed my face, splashed cold water on it, stared at myself in the mirror, red eyes, blotchy skin. That dazed look people get when their world's just been kicked out from under them. That's when it hit me. She wasn't coming back to talk. She wasn't going to apologize. She wasn't going to fight for us. Hell, she hadn't fought for us in months. And for the first time since reading those texts, I stopped feeling confused and started feeling angry. Not explosive, yelling anger, no. A quieter, steadier kind. The kind that comes with clarity. I walked into the living room where she was sitting on the couch scrolling her phone, scrolling her phone like nothing had happened. She didn't even glance up. Are we going to finish this conversation? I asked. She sighed dramatically, tossing her phone onto the couch cushion like she was being put out. What now? She said, monotone, bored. That was the moment the clarity snapped fully into place. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone who wasn't confused or sorry or conflicted. Someone who had checked out of our marriage long before I found out. Someone who didn't see me as a partner anymore, maybe hadn't for a long time. I'm going to stay at my brother's tonight, I said. That got her attention. She finally looked up. Oh, come on, she scoffed. You're being ridiculous. You're going to run away because you can't handle a conversation. A conversation? I repeated. You haven't had one with me. You've blamed me, lied to me, minimized everything you did, and acted like I'm the problem. She rolled her eyes. I'm not getting into this again. And that was it. No attempt to stop me. No wait, let's talk. No emotion at all, just apathy. I realized then that my leaving wasn't a threat to her, or a wake-up call, or even an inconvenience. It was simply irrelevant, and surprisingly, that made my next step easier. I grabbed my coat, Daisy's leash, and my car keys, didn't slam the door, didn't chat, just left, and as I drove away with Daisy curled in the passenger seat, head on my arm, I felt that pain inside me burning away the fog. There was still heartbreak, still disbelief, still loss, but there was something new too, resolve. That night at my brother's place was the first time in weeks I actually slept. Not because I was okay, far from it, but because I was finally somewhere safe, somewhere quiet, where I didn't have to pretend everything was normal, where I didn't have to sit across from someone who treated my life like a hobby. I kept replaying everything in my head, of course. Every lie she told, every sarcastic eye roll, every excuse she spat out like it was her right to rewrite reality. And somehow, even in my pain, I could see patterns now that I couldn't before. She was never the person I thought she was. The well-get-through-anything partner I married 6 years ago had evaporated. Maybe she had been gone a long time before I realized it. Maybe I just ignored the signs because it was easier to cling to the version of her I wanted than face reality. I felt anger swirl in my chest, hot, electric, all-consuming. But it was different than before. It wasn't the blind panic or helplessness of the first discovery. This was something I could channel. I realized that anger was mine to use, to protect myself, to decide my next steps. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't beg. I just sat with Daisy on the couch, letting the night stretch out, and let myself fully feel the betrayal without any sugarcoating. And here's the thing. It hurt. God, it hurt. but the pain was clarifying. It was showing me that my life didn't have to revolve around someone who treated me like disposable furniture, someone who could lie with that level of casual cruelty and still look bored while doing it. By the time the first light of morning crept in, I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stay in a marriage with someone who didn't value me, not for guilt, not for love, not even for appearances. The choice was mine. That night at my brother's place was the first time in weeks I actually slept. Not because I was okay, far from it, but because I was finally somewhere safe, somewhere quiet, where I didn't have to pretend everything was normal, where I didn't have to sit across from someone who treated my life like a hobby. I kept replaying everything in my head, of course. Every lie she told, every sarcastic eye roll, every excuse she spat out like it was her right to rewrite reality. And somehow, even in my pain, I could see patterns now that I couldn't before. She was never the person I thought she was. The well-get-through-anything partner I married 6 years ago had evaporated. Maybe she had been gone a long time before I realized it. Maybe I just ignored the signs because it was easier to cling to the version of her I wanted than face reality. I felt anger swirl in my chest, hot, electric, all-consuming. But it was different than before. It wasn't the blind panic or helplessness of the first discovery. This was something I could channel. I realized that anger was mine to use, to protect myself, to decide my next steps. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't beg. I just sat with Daisy on the couch, letting the night stretch out, and let myself fully feel the betrayal without any sugarcoating. And here's the thing. It hurt. God, it hurt. But the pain was clarifying. It was showing me that my life didn't have to revolve around someone who treated me like disposable furniture, someone who could lie with that level of casual cruelty and still look bored while doing it. By the time the first light of morning crept in, I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stay in a marriage with someone who didn't value me, not for guilt, not for love, not even for appearances. The choice was mine. The next few days were brutal. I went back to our apartment to grab a few essentials, and every corner of that place felt like it was laced with betrayal. Her clothes, her mug, her half-finished projects, it was like walking through a museum of lies. I thought about confronting her again, maybe trying to salvage something, but the truth hit me like a punch in the gut. There was nothing left to save. Not the version of her I married, not the trust, not even the emotional connection. She had already checked out. So I made the decision. I called the lawyer not to start a war, just to know my rights, to understand how to untangle our lives with as little chaos as possible. I started the mental process of separating our finances, our living arrangements, and most painfully, our dreams that were supposed to be shared. I also leaned on my brother and a few close friends. I realized I didn't have to go through this alone, even if the person I trusted most in the world had been lying to me for months. Talking about it helped me process the betrayal without letting it fester into self-blame. Every time I thought of her rolling her eyes, blaming me for her cheating, saying I was lucky she came home, I felt a mix of fury and sadness. But mostly I felt a strange kind of relief. Relief that I could finally stop pretending everything was okay. Relief that I had control over my next steps. Relief that I could choose to protect myself. And slowly, I started to understand that this decision, leaving, detaching emotionally, reclaiming my life, wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about valuing myself enough not to be treated like a second option. It didn't happen overnight, but day by day I started to feel lighter. I moved out completely, took my things, and even carved a little corner in my new apartment that felt like mine. No reminders of her, no traces of betrayal. Just me, Daisy, and the slow, steady reclaiming of my own space. I started exercising again, not because I wanted to look better for someone else, but because I wanted to feel strong physically and mentally. I started journaling, pouring every bit of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief onto paper. I cried when I needed to, and I laughed when a memory of a happy time came up, without guilt or comparison. The turning point, though, came when I realized I no longer needed to monitor her or dwell on her choices. I didn't have to check messages, wonder if she was lying, or replay scenes in my head. She had made her choice, and I had made mine. And mine was live my life with integrity, self-respect, and honesty. Even more surprisingly, I found myself feeling a sort of empathy not for her, not for what she did, but for the fact that some people are just incapable of valuing what's right in front of them. That realization helped me release the last bit of bitterness that kept me chained to the past. I wasn't over it yet. The betrayal still stung, but for the first time, I felt hopeful that I could rebuild a life that wasn't defined by her lies, that I could find happiness again, on my own terms. Looking back now, the whole experience feels surreal, like watching a train derail in slow motion while standing on the tracks. I learned more about myself in these past few weeks than I ever did in 6 years of marriage. I learned that trust isn't just a word, it's a fragile, living thing that can be destroyed in an instant. I learned that love without respect is meaningless. And I learned that sometimes, the hardest act of self-love is walking away from someone you thought would always be there. If there's one piece of advice I'd give anyone going through something similar, it's this. Trust your gut, don't ignore the signs. And don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Your feelings are valid, your pain is valid, and you don't owe anyone your dignity. Cheaters will lie, deflect, and manipulate, and no amount of hope or reasoning will fix that. The only thing you can control is how you respond. I've started to rebuild. I focus on my own growth, my dog, and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. It's slow, it hurts, but it's real, and it's mine. To anyone out there who suspects their partner is hiding something, pay attention, protect yourself, and remember that leaving a toxic situation isn't failure, it's bravery. And as hard as it is to imagine now, there is life on the other side of betrayal. A life where you can breathe again. That's all. Subscribe to this channel and click the like button and give everyone a thumbs up.